All right, guys, with The Last Dance wrapped up, it's easy to think that it may not be the only one of its kind. Jordan and the 90s Bulls are widely considered the most influential team in NBA history, but they're far from the only one. There's been plenty of other superstars, dynasties, three-peats, and dominance across the league's history worth talking about. So, Jay, which team should be up next for their own 10-part documentary series?
So just keeping it in the NBA, and I'm just thinking of dynasties and teams that have won um, similar to this level since the Bulls in the NBA. So you got the Lakers, the Spurs, the Heat with LeBron and D Wade and all them, and then the Warriors. The Warriors are interesting, but the Warriors are still kind of right now, so they can wait. Like let's quit with the documentary like right now when it's very possible they could add another ring next year. We just don't know, but they're gonna be right back in the thick of things at the very least. To me, this is pretty easy. I think it's the Lakers all the way from '96 to 2004. Um, that whole timeline where Shaq and Kobe were together, the Shaq Kobe relationship by itself is worth a documentary. The point that Kobe's no longer with us, that that would probably significantly inhibit that documentary, and it wouldn't be as good. And also another great point Cody brought up earlier is the Bulls in '97, '98 had already made agreements that they were going to give more access to media members to have this exclusive access. So Lakers didn't have that, or at least not to our knowledge anyway. So, but even so, this is kind of a wish list. I want this Laker team. I want the Kobe and Shaq relationship. Phil Jackson right along with him. And I talked about this a little earlier. The other components of that Laker run, especially the championship teams, they're kind of like some of the names, but beyond that, you don't know a lot. Like I'm talking about your Derek Fishers, your Robert Horrys, your Rick Foxes, and the list goes on and on. They really didn't have. When you look at today's NBA, people always talk about that third scorer. They didn't really have a third scorer. They had clutch guys that made big shots late, Fisher and Horry specifically. But throughout the first 46 minutes of the game, you know what you were getting. You were getting Kobe on the outside. You were getting Shaq in the paint, and that's what it was. That speaks to how great they were as a duo. But all in all, the Kobe Shaq relationship, when it was good, when it was bad towards the end, and then 2004, Phil Jackson wrote a book after that season. It's called The Last Season. When they brought in Gary Payton, when they brought in Karl Malone, it's a great read. Fascinating season. It's when Kobe was going through his the sexual assault allegations with Colorado, when he was in Colorado, in the morning, and in San Antonio at night, playing all this different type of stuff. Fascinating, all those different personalities. But yeah, with all that, it's easy. I think it's the Lakers.
Yeah, I agree with Jay, and here's the reason why. We have to understand, why was this Bulls documentary exciting? Why did we care for it? It could have been a dud, it could have been a boom, but it wasn't. Why? Because you have these independent components, and you slap them together, and it gave you what you want. You got the drama, you got the unity, you got the ups, you got the downs. You have, okay, I knew this, but that took it to the next level. Okay, I knew this guy. You got the changeover of the players during the time. You have the stars they're not seeing eye to eye from time to time. Sometimes Jordan didn't see eye to eye with Pippen. Pippen didn't see eye to eye with Robin. Robin didn't see eye to eye with anybody. And then Phil had to glue all of this together. So when you think about all these nuances that is put together to make this documentary so good, you have to have these components to live up, especially if you're going to say 10 parts. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a hot 5 or something, maybe 6 you can get away with. But when you say 10, you got to have the context. And this is why I think the Lakers match that, because they can give you all of that. You have, Kobe and Shaq's relationship that's going to give you a hot 5 episodes by itself. Then you got what Phil was doing during that time. Then you got, like he said, the Kobe case. You got when they added Gary Payton, when they added Karl Malone, you got the shot made by Derek Fisher with .004. You have these components here, the Brian Shaws, the Rick Foxes. You have all this time that went through that would keep a person sitting in their seat to be like, oh, I didn't even know that. Oh, I thought this was that, but that was this. Oh, okay. And then at the end of the day, when you think about it, you say to yourself, what kind of coach can put, oh, it was Phil. Once again, Phil wins again. Phil out here with the extracurricular skill set that wrapped out. He was the bow on the top of this present that got it, under the tree. That was Phil. So when you look at all this, I think this is really the only team, the only dynasty that you could talk about that would give you every check in the box as far as entertainment. I want more. I want to see more. I didn't know that. Feed me. Drop that every Sunday for 2 hours and get people to the seat. I think they're the only ones. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the other dynasties could not live to it, but I would challenge you to show me where those dynasties hit every box in the world of entertainment as well as in the world of sports.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the whole thesis here is I absolutely agree, first of all, that it would be the Shaq Kobe Lakers. Because, there's a lot of dynasties that were just, these dudes are pretty good. I mean, like, Jay, you were talking about the Warriors, okay, once upon a time, a team drafted a bunch of good players. They got a good coach and they were good. San Antonio, I mean, they're a great dynasty, but would that really be something you want to watch 10 episodes on? Like Pop and Tim Duncan and, like, I don't know if I want to watch 10 episodes of that. I mean, if I was a Spurs fan, but you need the second level. You need the stars. You need the characters. You need the controversy. And I think, like you said, I think this is one of the few teams that does highlight all those additional things going beyond just they're pretty good. And this team beat some really good teams. They beat some of the San Antonio teams. They beat Kevin Garnett's Wolves. They had that infamous playoff series, a 7-game series with the Kings when they were good. Jason Kidd and the Nets. I mean, the list goes on.
The Trailblazers.
Yeah, the Trailblazers and those. I mean, good stars, like all these dudes we were watching in The Last Dance that were interviewing. You're like, oh yeah, I remember him. He was a dude. Like, how many guys you could have in on this one?
Yeah, pretty much the same Pacers team that the Bulls beat in the Eastern Conference Finals. That team eventually made it to the NBA Finals. That was the Lakers' first championship.
Yep. Okay. There you go. Yeah. I mean, the list goes on. There's a lot you could throw in on that. So, if I had to throw in an NBA runner-up, I would say I'd want a 10-part series on Wilt Chamberlain, both on and off the court. But that's, I guess, another topic for the day.
I want to see off the court.
Yeah. I mean, my gosh, what you hear on him. But
Drink wants to see film on Wilt Chamberlain.
I do want to see film on Wilt Chamberlain in general. But yeah, that's very true.
So, speaking of these recent dynasty breakups, we were talking about the Bulls earlier, but of this little dynasty here with Kobe, Shaq, and Phil, we'll start with you, Drink. Who do you think was the most important part of the dynasty they had?
Well, listen, we got to understand Shaq came when Shaq came there. Shaq was in his prime when he got there from Orlando. Then they drafted this little skinny kid out of Philadelphia named Kobe. Well, I mean, they traded for this little skinny kid out of Philadelphia, Kobe Bryant. They didn't know what they exactly had at the time, and then he came up to be what he was. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna go with Shaq because Shaq was the foundational piece that started this. Like, you got to have a foundation, just like the Bulls had Michael. Michael was the foundation. He lost. He couldn't get over the hump. Then you went out and you got him a Scottie. You went out, you got him a Phil. You went out, you got him a Paxson. And the list goes on and on. Where the Lakers was kind of in that same era. They went out, they paid Shaq all this money to come in and be their foundational piece. The wheels started churning. Then they went out and got the Kobe. They got him a superstar. Then they went out and got the Phils. And then they went out and got the Fishers. And then they went out and got all these pieces. And it all of it start adding up. Now we know how it ended up at the end, but if I had to answer that question now, I'm gonna go with Shaq for that one.
Yeah, as much you guys know how much I love Kobe, and you know how much I love Phil too. And the Lakers don't win any titles without those two guys. But I do agree with Drink 100%. Shaq was the foundation. Shaq at this point, and outside of Wilt, I think Shaq is the most dominant force in the interior that we've ever seen. And his play throughout the first three, probably 3.5 quarters is what kept you in games or put you in front of games. And to that point, we've never seen anything. I mean, Bill Walton in these old games, there's three things he would always refer to it in Shaq's game. He would always say the three things about Shaq: the jump hook, the lob, and the offensive rebound. You can run the clips back, and he'd say that over and over. And it's true. And just such a unique dominant force that, Shaq got hacked and fouled, every play, but officials just would swallow the whistle half the time just to like keep the game moving. He was such a unique force, but he was flawed. Now he couldn't hit free throws. Sometimes you could question his effort and his buy-in, and he'd come in out of shape, and he would play his way into shape throughout the season. But to me, he was the most important. But you don't win without Kobe, because at the end of the game, when you need a perimeter shot, when Shaq's getting hacked because he can't shoot foul shots, and when Shaq would foul out from time to time, there was a point in that Pacers series where he fouled out. Kobe was a guy that could bring you home and could close and had that killer instinct that would get you over the top.
Yeah, as far as the players go, I'd probably agree. I always have to think like a guy like Kobe who had that sort of MJ level drive and that hyper competitiveness. Like, it's hard to imagine that he wasn't kind of the sort of like heartbeat of the team. But yeah, I think we were talking about like as far as on the court, Shaq's play was really what anchored those teams. And without him, I don't know if Kobe could have pulled some of those championships off, especially not without him. But if you just put a player like that was pretty good, but just not Shaq good in his place. But like we were talking about with the Last Dance, Phil Jackson, his secret was the ability to manage personalities. And we know a lot about the Kobe Shaq feud on the surface, but how did we not know there was even more going on behind the scenes? I mean, we see now some of the crap he put up with during the 90s with the Bulls. Like, and that, again, that's just what we know and what we were allowed to see on film. How much more crap happened that we didn't know about,
Yeah, there was more.
So you wonder if maybe Phil Jackson wasn't the glue that held this whole thing together. Maybe it would have just blown up completely and flamed out, if that was...
Look, let me tell you something. What this tells me is Phil got all the secrets. He got all the secrets from 1991 to like 2011. Like, this dude got all the secrets because he didn't see that all behind the scenes as a head coach. I mean, when you're the most winningest coach of all time, I mean, you got a lot of stuff. This dude might get his own documentary from everything he did see in his lifetime, So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, maybe before he goes on, we'll get his 10-part documentary. That might be more interesting than anything we've seen so far. We'll have to see.